There is a sentence that sounds beautiful, but has quietly damaged more lives than most people realize. Be kind no matter what. We hear it from childhood: be patient, be generous, be understanding, forgive quickly. Do not make things harder, do not disappoint people, put yourself last. And somewhere along the way, many people stop asking one dangerous question. What happens when kindness starts destroying the person who gives it? Because there is a kind of pain almost nobody talks about. Not the pain of being hated, not the pain of being rejected, but the pain of being loved for what you provide and forgotten for who you are. The pain of always being the understanding one, the available one, the calm one, the generous one, the one who says it is okay even when it is not, the one who gives people one more chance and then another and then another. Until one day you look in the mirror and realize something terrifying. You did not lose yourself in one dramatic moment. You lost yourself in small permissions, in little compromises, in swallowed truths, in delayed boundaries, in the habit of calling self-erasure kindness. And that is where this begins. Because kindness is beautiful. It is one of the highest things a human being can practice. But kindness without wisdom, kindness without self-respect, kindness without limits, that is not virtue. That is self-betrayal wearing a halo. The Stoics understood something many people still struggle to accept. You are not good because you let people use you. You are not noble because you abandon yourself quietly. And you are not loving because you tolerate what slowly destroys your peace. Sometimes what looks like kindness is fear. Fear of conflict, fear of disappointing people, fear of being misunderstood, fear of being called selfish for finally choosing yourself. So in this video, I want to walk with you through 8 Stoic warnings. 8 signs that your kindness is no longer a strength, but a wound you keep reopening. And stay with me until the end, because the final warning is the deepest one. It looks admirable from the outside, it even gets rewarded, but it can quietly build a life where everyone has access to you except you. Let us begin. Warning 1. When your kindness is driven by guilt, it is no longer kindness. There is a huge difference between giving from fullness and giving from fear. From the outside, they can look identical. You help, you show up, you say yes, you listen, you fix, you carry. But internally, the motive changes everything. If you give because it is aligned with your values, that is generosity. If you give because guilt will not let you rest, that is emotional captivity. And many people never learn the difference. They think, if I do not do this, I am selfish. If I say no, I am a bad person. If I choose myself today, I am abandoning them. So they keep giving, not because they want to, but because guilt has become their master. The Stoic mind does not call that virtue. Virtue must come from reason, from principle, from freedom, not from panic, not from emotional pressure, not from the need to constantly prove your goodness. Because the moment guilt becomes the engine of your kindness, your peace begins to disappear. Now your giving has resentment hidden inside it. Now every favor has exhaustion attached. Now every yes is followed by an invisible ache. You know that ache? That moment when you agree to something and immediately feel heavy. That moment when your mouth says yes, but your body says, "Why did you do that again?" That feeling is not weakness. That feeling is information. Listen to it. A lot of people are not kind because they are free. They are kind because they are terrified of what happens if they stop. Terrified someone will withdraw love. Terrified someone will get angry. Terrified they will no longer be needed. Terrified they will discover that some relationships survive only because they keep overgiving. That is not kindness. That is fear negotiating for belonging. And here is the warning. Any goodness that requires you to betray your own judgment will eventually poison you. Because the soul knows when it is being coerced, even by its own habits. So the next time you feel pulled to rescue, fix, explain, or carry something that drains you, pause, ask yourself, am I doing this from principle or from guilt? Because one will strengthen your character, the other will hollow it out. Warning 2. If your kindness makes you disappear, it is too expensive. There are people who walk into a room and immediately sense what everyone needs, who is uncomfortable, who needs reassurance, who is upset, who might leave, who needs to be included, who needs to be calmed down. These people are often praised. They are called empathetic, mature, selfless, deeply caring. And maybe they are. But sometimes that sensitivity was not born from peace. Sometimes it was born from survival. From growing up in environments where reading the room was necessary, where keeping others happy kept things stable, where being easy was safer than being honest, where your needs had to become quiet so other people's emotions could stay loud. Years later, that pattern becomes personality. You become the one who understands everyone except yourself, the one who protects everyone's peace except your own, the one who notices everyone's pain while ignoring your own exhaustion. This is where kindness becomes dangerous, when it becomes a way of disappearing. You help so often that you no longer know what you want. You accommodate so smoothly that your own preferences start fading. You become so practiced at making room for others that you stop existing fully in your own life. The Stoics taught self-command, not self-erasure. Yes, they valued compassion, but not at the cost of inner order, not at the cost of your duties to your own soul. Because you, too, are a person entrusted to your care. Read that again. You are not the exception to your own compassion. Your time matters, your energy matters, your inner life matters, your rest matters, your truth matters. And if your version of kindness requires you to constantly abandon those things, then it is not noble. It is unsustainable. Imagine pouring water into every cup in the room while your own hands are cracking from thirst. That is how many people live. Then one day they become bitter, detached, numb, strangely angry, and they do not understand why. But the answer is simple. They kept calling depletion love. The Stoic path is not to harden your heart. It is to stop making your disappearance the price of being a good person. So ask yourself honestly, when was the last time I checked in with my own needs with the same sincerity I offer everyone else? When was the last time I protected my peace without apologizing for it? When was the last time I gave myself permission to exist in the room as fully as everyone I keep accommodating? Because if your kindness always costs you your place, your voice, your needs, your boundaries, your energy, your self-respect, then the price is too high. And the longer you pay it, the more invisible you become to yourself. Warning 3. Your kindness can train people to disrespect you. This is one of the hardest truths to accept, because good-hearted people do not want to believe it. They think if I keep being patient, they will appreciate it. If I keep understanding, they will change. If I keep showing grace, eventually they will see my heart. Sometimes they do, but often they simply adapt. People adapt to what you tolerate. They adapt to what you always forgive. They adapt to what you make easy for them. They adapt to the version of you that keeps absorbing the consequences they should be forced to face. This is not cynicism, it is human nature. The first time you rescue someone, they may feel grateful. The 10th time, they begin to expect it. The 100th time, they may even feel irritated when you are unavailable. Not because people are always evil, because expectations grow wherever boundaries disappear. If every time someone forgets their responsibility, you save them, they learn they can forget. If every time someone speaks carelessly, you excuse it, they learn they can be careless. If every time someone crosses a line, you smile through it, they learn the line was never real. And then one day you are shocked by how casually they treat you. But what you called kindness, they experienced as permission. The Stoic mind is deeply concerned with what belongs to you and what does not. Your values, your choices, your time, your character, your responses. To protect those things is not selfish, it is wisdom. Because without that wisdom, generosity turns into enabling. And enabling does not help people grow. It helps them avoid growth. There is nothing loving about making irresponsibility comfortable. Let that land. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do is let people feel the weight of their own choices. Let them solve what they created. Let them hear no. Let them meet your standards. Let them discover that access to you is not automatic. Not because you hate them, because you respect reality. There are people who only look strong because someone else is quietly carrying their load. There are people who never develop discipline because someone kinder keeps cushioning every fall. And if that someone is you, then your kindness may be helping them stay weak. That is the warning. When your kindness removes all friction from someone else's irresponsibility, you are no longer serving love. You are serving dysfunction. So stop asking only, am I being nice? Ask something more mature. Am I teaching this person to value what I give or to expect it? Because that answer will tell you whether your kindness is building respect or rehearsing your own mistreatment. Warning 4. If you cannot say no, your yes is not as virtuous as you think. A yes has no moral beauty if it was never free. Let us be honest. A lot of people say yes not out of generosity but out of fear. Fear of tension, fear of someone's reaction, fear of guilt afterward, fear of being seen as difficult, fear of losing connection. So they say yes quickly, automatically, almost professionally. Yes, I can help. Yes, I will be there. Yes, do not worry about it. Yes, it is fine. Yes, I understand. And eventually, their whole life becomes a long chain of involuntary yeses. But Stoicism is about inner freedom, the freedom to act according to reason, not emotional pressure. If you cannot say no, then your kindness is not a virtue. It is a reflex, and reflexes can ruin lives. Because every unchosen yes steals time from something else. From your sleep, from your healing, from your work, from your family, from your silence, from your own becoming. This is why no is such a sacred word, not rude, sacred. Because no protects what yes can actually mean. No protects your integrity. No protects your attention. No protects your energy from being spent on everything except what matters. And the people who become uncomfortable when you finally say no, pay attention to that. Some people love your kindness, others love your compliance. Do not confuse the two. The Stoics did not live for approval. They lived in accordance with what was right. Sometimes that meant being misunderstood. Sometimes it meant disappointing people. Sometimes it meant choosing temporary discomfort over long-term self-contempt. That is maturity. A childish soul wants to keep everyone pleased. A disciplined soul asks, what is true? What is fair? What can I genuinely give without betraying myself? So here is the pattern break. Pause before answering. Let the silence breathe. Do not rush to fill it with sacrifice. Ask yourself, do I actually want to do this? Do I have the energy for this? Would I still say yes if I were not afraid of disappointing them? If the answer is no, honor it, because a truthful no is kinder than a resentful yes. And once you learn that, your kindness becomes cleaner, stronger, more honest. Warning 5. Kindness without truth becomes deception. This warning is subtle, and because it is subtle, it destroys people slowly. There are many who think they are being kind when they avoid difficult conversations, when they soften every truth, when they hide what they really feel, when they say it is okay just to keep the peace. But peace built on suppressed truth is not peace, it is delayed damage. The Stoics valued clarity. They believed in meeting reality directly, not cruelly, not theatrically, but honestly. And honesty is often kinder than niceness. If someone is hurting you and you keep pretending they are not, that is not kindness. It is confusion. If someone depends on you in unhealthy ways and you never tell them the truth, that is not compassion. It is cowardice dressed as patience. If a relationship is draining, manipulative, one-sided, or quietly disrespectful, and you keep performing warmth while your spirit recoils, that is not virtue. That is fragmentation. You split yourself in two. One self smiles, the other self suffers. One self speaks politely, the other self goes home and collapses. One self says no problem, the other self starts losing sleep. This is how self-betrayal grows, not only through what you allow, but through what you refuse to name. A lot of resentment is just truth that has gone silent for too long. The truth does not always need to be brutal, but it does need to exist. Sometimes kindness means saying, that does not work for me. I cannot keep doing this. I need space. I feel unseen in this dynamic. I am willing to help, but not like this. I care about you, and that is exactly why I need to be honest. That is adult kindness, kindness with spine, kindness with self-respect, kindness that does not poison itself trying to remain pleasant. Because when you hide the truth for too long, you do not become more loving. You become harder to trust. People may like your softness, yes, but they are not meeting the real you. They are meeting a version edited for comfort. And eventually the real you will demand air, usually in the form of distance, shutdown, bitterness, or an explosion that seems sudden to everyone except you. So here is the warning. If your kindness requires dishonesty, it is already corrupted. Say the true thing sooner, calmly, clearly, without cruelty, without performance. Because truth is not the enemy of love. Often it is the proof of it. Warning 6. The more you are valued only for what you do, the lonelier you become. This one hurts. Because from the outside, useful people rarely look lonely. They are always needed, always called, always included when something must be solved, always appreciated for their reliability. People praise them. You are amazing. I do not know what I would do without you. You always know how to handle things. You are the only one I can count on. And those words can feel good for a while, until you realize something frightening. Sometimes people are not attached to you. They are attached to the function you perform in their lives. To your labor, your emotional availability, your calming presence, your resources, your advice, your listening, your endless capacity. And when you stop providing, the connection changes. This is one of the deepest wounds of overkind people. They become irreplaceable in service and invisible in selfhood. The Stoic question is not, do people need me? The deeper question is, do people know me? Because being needed feels safer than being truly known. If I am useful, I cannot be abandoned. If I solve problems, I matter. If I carry everyone, I secure my place. But that bargain is expensive, because now rest feels dangerous, need feels shameful, vulnerability feels irresponsible, and love starts to feel transactional even when nobody says it out loud. You become the strong one no one checks on, the helper no one helps, the safe place no one shelters. That is a lonely life, and the longer you live there, the more you start to wonder, would anyone stay if I were no longer impressive, stable, available, giving, composed, useful? That question breaks a lot of hearts in silence. Here is the warning. If your kindness makes people dependent on your function but disconnected from your humanity, it will eventually isolate you. So begin asking different questions. Who asks how I am when I have nothing to offer? Who respects my no as much as they enjoy my yes? Who cares about my interior life, not just my output? Who can sit with me when I am not performing strength? Those are the relationships that protect the soul. Everything else may be association, convenience, access, need, but not necessarily love. Stoicism is not about becoming cold to this truth. It is about becoming clear, because clarity may hurt at first, but confusion hurts longer. Warning 7. Self-betraying kindness turns into resentment, then numbness. This is what people do not tell you. The person who is too nice is not always peaceful. Sometimes they are furious, not outwardly, not dramatically, but deep underneath. Because when you keep overriding yourself, a hidden anger begins to build. Every time you say yes when you mean no, every time you overextend and pretend it is fine, every time you give from emptiness, every time you silence your truth to keep someone comfortable, a part of you takes note. A part of you says, you did it again. And if that part is ignored long enough, it stops whispering, it hardens. What began as sadness becomes resentment. What began as resentment becomes emotional fatigue. What began as fatigue becomes numbness. This is why some of the kindest people suddenly become distant, not because they stopped caring, because they cared past their limits for too long. They overgave until warmth started to feel like dread. They helped until helping became heavy. They smiled until smiling felt dishonest. And by the time others notice the change, the person is already emotionally far away. The Stoics believed the inner life had to be governed with care, not repressed, not neglected. Governed because unexamined emotions do not disappear, they ferment. And resentment is often the smoke that tells you some part of your soul has been burning without oxygen. Pay attention if you are becoming unusually irritable, if small requests make you angry, if your compassion feels thin, if you are fantasizing about disappearing, if you are doing kind things with a cold heart. That does not make you a bad person. It may mean your kindness has been operating without truth, boundaries, or recovery, and your nervous system is protesting. There is no prize for being the kindest corpse in the room. No honor in becoming emotionally dead just because you were afraid to disappoint people while you were alive. Resentment is not always a sign that others are horrible. Sometimes it is a sign that you have been violating your own limits for too long. So do not just ask, "Why am I so irritated?" Ask, "Where have I been saying yes against my deeper judgment? Where have I been overgiving? Where have I confused exhaustion with virtue?" Because if you do not interrupt the pattern at resentment, life may teach you through numbness instead, and numbness is much harder to heal. Warning 8. The most dangerous form of self-betrayal is becoming good to everyone except yourself. This is the final warning, and in some ways it is the deepest one. Because a person can look incredibly loving from the outside, while maintaining a brutal relationship with themselves on the inside. They speak gently to others but harshly to themselves. They forgive everyone but not themselves. They give grace to every mistake in the room except their own. They understand everyone's trauma, everyone's limitations, everyone's stress, yet deny their own humanity completely. They rest only after collapse. They validate themselves only through service. They measure their worth by how much they can carry without complaint. And because the world often rewards that behavior, they mistake self-neglect for moral excellence. But the Stoic path rejects that completely. You cannot build a life of virtue while treating yourself like a machine. You cannot claim wisdom while constantly abandoning your own needs. You cannot call yourself kind if your inner voice is cruel, impatient, demanding, and impossible to satisfy. Real strength is not self-punishment. It is self-governance. The ability to hold yourself to standards without hatred, to correct yourself without humiliating yourself, to care for others without deserting your own soul. Think about how many people spend years trying to earn the love they have never learned to give themselves. They overperform, overhelp, over-explain, overextend. And underneath it all is one unspoken hope. Maybe if I am good enough to everyone else, I will finally feel worthy. But worth cannot be borrowed from usefulness. It cannot be rented from approval. It cannot be earned through self-erasure. At some point, the kindest thing you can do is turn that tenderness inward. Protect your peace, feed your mind carefully, rest before you break, say no before resentment, tell the truth before distance. Leave what repeatedly wounds you. Honor your own limits as evidence of wisdom, not selfishness. Because here is the final warning. If you spend your life being merciful to everyone except yourself, your kindness will become the weapon that destroys you. Do not let that happen. You deserve your own loyalty too. The Stoic reversal. What kindness looks like when it stops betraying you. So what does wise kindness actually look like? What does Stoic kindness look like when it is no longer driven by guilt, fear, or self-erasure? It looks like this. It tells the truth sooner. It says no without turning that no into a confession. It helps without becoming responsible for everyone. It gives from principle, not pressure. It protects its inner life instead of offering every part of itself to public use. It understands something many people learn too late. Love and access are not the same thing. Someone can love you without unlimited access to your time. Someone can respect you while hearing the word no. Someone can value you without expecting constant sacrifice. Healthy love survives boundaries. Manipulation does not. And this is why boundaries are not the opposite of kindness. They are what allow kindness to remain clean. Without boundaries, generosity becomes depletion. Without truth, compassion becomes confusion. Without self-respect, service becomes self-abandonment. The Stoics never taught people to become cold. They taught them to become difficult to manipulate. There is a profound difference. So before you agree to the next demand, pause, ask yourself, if guilt disappeared for the next 60 seconds, would I still say yes? If this person could not offer me approval, would I still do this? If I loved myself as much as I claim to love others, what would I choose right now? Those questions will reveal more than most advice ever will. Because your life does not change only in dramatic moments, it changes in the ordinary ones. One honest conversation, one protected evening, one unnecessary apology left unsaid, one calm boundary enforced, one peaceful no. That is how self-respect returns, the same way it was lost, one decision at a time. So what is the lesson in all of this? Not that kindness is weakness, not that you should become cold, not that you should stop caring, not that stoicism means building walls and calling it strength. No, the lesson is this. Kindness is only beautiful when it is guided by truth, by self-respect, by inner order, by choice. Otherwise, it becomes sacrifice without meaning, giving without dignity, love without wisdom. And that kind of kindness does not save anyone. It simply teaches the world that your heart is available at the expense of your soul. So remember the warnings. If your kindness comes from guilt, be careful. If it makes you disappear, be careful. If it trains others to disrespect you, be careful. If you cannot say no, be careful. If it hides the truth, be careful. If it makes you valuable only for your usefulness, be careful. If it turns into resentment, be careful. And if you are kind to everyone except yourself, stop. Stop and come back to yourself. Because you were never meant to become a shelter for the whole world while living homeless inside your own life. The highest form of kindness is not self-abandonment. It is love with backbone, compassion with clarity, generosity with limits, mercy with wisdom. And once you learn that, you do not become less loving. You become harder to use, harder to drain, harder to manipulate, and finally free enough to give from truth instead of fear. If one line from this needs to become a promise to yourself, let it be this. I choose kindness with self-respect. Not kindness that erases me. Not kindness that lies for peace. Not kindness that confuses exhaustion with virtue. Kindness with self-respect. Because sometimes the next chapter of your life does not begin when you learn how to give more. It begins when you finally learn where giving must end.